Well, hey, last week I had my friend Glenn Powell here, and you still haven't left my house. And it's
Right,
been a
we're
week.
still here.
I'm getting tired of making breakfast for
Rent? Are you going to charge me rent?
Well, those of you that are very smart will recognize that we're still wearing the same shirts. So Glenn.
Laundry. I need to do laundry.
That's
too.
right. Yeah, very important thing. So Glenn, you wrote the book. Last week we talked about why you wrote the book. The first few chapters, you talk it kind of interesting language. The complicated Bible, the elegant Bible, the snacking Bible. Tell us what you're thinking behind that. And of course, we've already read those chapters, but it seems like you're saying we don't have the right kind of Bibles in our house.
Right. It's interesting when you look at the history of the Bible as a book. In the modern period, we fundamentally changed what the Bible is. And it's interesting that it came late in the Bible's history. So chapter numbers added in the 13th century, verse numbers in the 16th century, and then all the other additives, footnotes, cross-references, section headings. When you think about all the stuff we put into a Bible, we turned the Bible into something that looks like a reference book.
So John
rather than a reading
3:16,
book.
John 3:16 didn't
Yeah.
exist before the 1500s.
Right, right. You could read the Gospel of John, and you would find the sentences built into paragraphs, but you couldn't find all these little individual spiritual tidbits separated out. And when you realize the very first chapter and verse Bibles made every single verse a separate paragraph, so it really stood apart as a separate piece of truth. Even if it was part of the same sentence, they would make every single number a new paragraph, which really devastated the chance that you had of seeing what kind of book it was in the original. So you can't see songs and letters and stories and prophecies. You see a list of statements down the page that looks for all the world like a dictionary or an encyclopedia.
So I've got here this. I use this thing to death. If you can see it, this is a Thompson Chain Reference King James Version Bible. I'm sure you know about it.
Yes.
So I don't know if you can see this. You guys probably have Bibles like this. I'll just ask it. What's the problem with my Bible?
Yeah. This is a great reference tool.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. When you look at the history of chapters and verses, chapter numbers were added by somebody who was making Bible commentaries.
Okay.
Verse numbers were added by somebody who was looking to make a Bible concordance. So two reference tools. Very interesting. So obviously very useful for finding a little piece or a particular part of the Bible really quickly. But
so if I wanted to find out where King Ahab and Jezebel are mentioned, I don't have to fan through the pages. I can go right to it.
Exactly. So that's a useful thing. The problem is we decided to make that the way every Bible is. So even when the need is different, when you're not looking for a Bible commentary or concordance, everybody has a reference Bible with all these other distractions, right? You look at all these cross-references and other things on the
Both
page.
sides, it's hard to tell which is which.
Built-in distractions. So it's everything on the page tells you, instead of just reading this entire story in this particular part of the Bible, I got to stop and look that up. I got to go over there and see what that is. I got to read that note. I got to do this. And it's hard, based on the physical presentation of this Bible, to just read continuously and at length. And so I think study Bibles are great for study. The problem is we've made that the only thing we do with the Bible. When do we simply read the Bible? So we changed the Bible from a reading book to a reference book, and not surprisingly, we moved away from reading to where now the vast majority of people who are using the Bible, they're not reading, they're referencing.
Okay, so now we talk about study Bibles. I got a whole bunch of them here. I've got the Reformation Study Bible by R.C. Sproul. I've got the Life Application Study Bible, which I actually like. Is that okay?
Really? You like it?
Well, I know it's cheating, but sometimes when I'm preparing a sermon, after I've done my work, I'll glance at it and see if there isn't 3 or 4 points that all begin with the letter R or something.
And I know you do it the right way. I was actually at a Christian booksellers convention one summer, and a fellow had done some research that showed what happens with a lot of people with study Bibles. They actually would neglect to read the Bible text, and they would jump straight to the notes, especially with something like the Life Application Bible, and say, well, that's where it actually is going to talk to me about my life.
So I can skip the boring stuff.
That and just read the note. And I know that's not the intention with any of these study Bibles, but there's a danger in what we actually do with them.
So this one, this particular study Bible, you look at it, the problem, according to you, what I'm seeing here is that about 3/4 of this page is not Scripture.
Right. So the visual message, and notice where the color is. What part gets color and what part gets this?
The photograph around the note.
Right.
Verse 38.
The color in the numbers is bigger and bolder here.
Yeah.
So there's a visual message saying, actually, your brain is receiving the message, this is more important than this.
Huh.
Even though these are the sacred words and this is our commentary.
In other words, this on the bottom is somebody's opinion.
Yep.
And maybe a valid opinion.
Maybe helpful.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's not the Bible. I know if some of you have ever seen the old Schofield Reference Bible,
Right.
you open it up to Genesis, and I think it has 2 verses, and the entire rest of the page
Yes.
is commentary.
Yes, exactly. And now, I need to say on the other side, of course, there are a lot of great teachers, scholars who have done background study. We can learn so much from study Bibles. So I'm not against study Bibles per se, right?
Yeah.
It's just that we've made that, like, if you're a serious Bible person, the thing you do is study. And when do we send the message to people, to kids growing up in the church, to adults who want to be serious in their Christian life with the scriptures? When do we tell them, you need to just be reading the Bible, reading it well, at length, understanding it on its own terms, and reading it in depth, right? Getting a whole book. The fundamental unit of the Bible is the book. That's what the authors intended as a unit, rather than a chapter or a verse. And I think we've just elevated study over reading, and we've lost track of reading. It's the thing that people aren't doing.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of bringing reading back. And when we study, which is great, I mean, we have more help than anybody in the entire history of the church,
Yeah.
right? Who else had this many support materials for understanding the Bible? It's fantastic. But study second, read first.
Interesting. Now, this one, which is almost more of a prop, this is a pulpit Bible and kind of a good pounding one.
Good for thumping.
Yeah, this illustrates what you were talking about, the way it's set up.
Yep.
So,
Think about what this does. So I see 2 columns of text. Every single number is set apart as a separate paragraph.
yeah.
So no matter where I am in the Bible, if I'm in the Psalms, which are song lyrics, if I'm in a story, if I'm in historical material, if I'm in one of Paul's letters, I can't tell any of that because it all looks the same. It's a list of numbered spiritual statements down the page. And it's even telling me the way to read this is all by itself.
Yeah.
It looks like a standalone statement. So I'm actually, in a sense, being encouraged to read it out of context. Because I'm not being encouraged to take in what kind of book is this? Where is this sentence in the paragraph? Where's this paragraph in the bigger unit? And so therefore, the visual message is, read this all alone. Now, you can read past that and read a whole chapter or read a section, but the format's actually working against that. You have to read against the format to read the Bible well with a Bible like this.
Did you catch that? That one sentence you said, it's the format is encouraging me to read it out of context.
Right.
Wow. So do I get rid of all my, I've got a whole bunch of study Bibles. This is the NIV study Bible. Oh my goodness, you guys probably got some royalties off that.
You paid help some of my salary for buying these.
Well,
and I certainly wouldn't throw them out, at least sell them on eBay or something. No, actually,
Yeah.
I think these are fantastic gifts. Some of the new study Bibles, the Cultural Background Study Bible, for instance, I think the standard ESV, NIV study Bibles, filled with great material, so helpful. We just have to not think that the default mode for always doing with the Bible is this kind of in-depth study of a smaller piece, and realize it's just as important to always be reading so that when I study, I'm doing it in the context of knowing what the whole book says.
Okay, some of my students here they were given maybe when they were in high school, the Teen Girl Study Bible.
Right.
Or maybe
Right.
the Duck Dynasty Study Bible. I hear there is one. I don't own a
I've seen
copy.
it.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
Yes.
And there's got to be another dozen or 2 or 3 of those, I would almost call them novelty study Bibles. What about those?
Right. So just between you and me, I was part of this.
Nobody else is listening.
So part of what's happening is I'm atoning for my own sins because I helped to produce all these specialty kinds of study Bibles.
Because if it was
for
within
all these groups,
if it was your translation, of course,
Right.
you guys had a hand in it.
Well, here's the thing: if you're selling Bibles as a business, and I'm not opposed to business, but if you're selling Bibles as a business, the pressure on you is to this year sell more Bibles. Not just say, well, we sold this person a Bible last year, So they're good. We don't need to produce another Bible for them. Your job is to keep selling Bibles, because the fact is the Bible is not just like a bestseller one time. It's the best-selling book every single year. People keep buying Bibles. Most of those, interestingly, are given as gifts. So people are not, for the most part, buying Bibles for themselves. They're giving them to give to someone else. Graduation present, a wife gives one to a husband, hoping he'll start reading the Bible, this sort of things. Kids. So what you have to do as a Bible publisher, you're under great pressure to do something new with the Bible every single year, to say, oh, here's a Bible you've never seen before. And it kind of makes you feel like, oh, maybe that one has something. Even though I have 4 other Bibles at home, I don't have this set of notes by this author. I don't have this angle. It's not a devotional study, whatever kind of Bible you're looking at. So there's a kind of spiritual pressure you feel to say, oh, I should get that one, or I should get that for my kids. And the problem is, people need to have one, I think, really great reader's Bible.
So really the issue is not getting rid of all these, but maybe we need to look at that. Next time you come back, we talk about what that format would be like.